All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm going to get my deck up here. Okay. So thank you for joining us to learn how to automate your shipping workflows and save time and money on every shipment. I'm Rob Zaleski, Product Marketing Manager for ShipStation North America, and I'll be your host today. We're getting started now, but I just want to go over some housekeeping items. First, this webinar will be recorded, and we will be sending out a recording soon after the webinar. If you have any issues during the webinar, please, or with either sound or video, please exit out and come back in. That often fixes those issues. Also, now is a good time to close down any web browser apps, chat apps, Netflix, Hulu, or anything else that might be zapping some of your internet bandwidth. We have a lot of great content today. You're not going to want to miss any of it. If you have any questions, feel free to submit those in the Q&A box. We'll get to as many as time allows at the end. And now, I'd like to introduce your speakers for today. Josh Williams has been with ShipStation for 7 years as of yesterday. Happy 7, Josh.
Thank you.
That's
you.
fantastic.
Can't believe it.
It flies by. In his time at ShipStation, he's worked leading our implementation and onboarding teams, and now it leads our customer success teams. When he's not at work, Josh loves spending time with his wife and 3 kids. And we've got Austin Bratcher, who is also coming up on 7 years.
Yeah, almost.
Amazing. So we got some tenure here. And he has been involved in engineering and as an engineering manager. He worked in most corners of the app at one point or another, most recently spending a fair time in ShipStation Connect and also helping with the ShipStation login experience. When not at work, Austin enjoys cycling and spending loads of time with his 2-year-old son and his wife. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Well,
very happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
So what are we going to go over today? So I've got the introduction out the door. So we're going to talk about why should you be automating your shipping. Then we're going to go over some rules to know that are based on some of our most popular rules used by some of our top customers. And then we will go into a Q&A at the end where you can pick the brains of some of the smartest people in the room, and they'll give you some help on how to automate your shipping. So why automate? But actually, before we even get to that, what do we mean when we say automation? In its most basic form, automation consists of rules that are built on if-then statements, which then apply to shipments that meet the criteria that you specify. So if a shipment weighs X, then use Y carrier in service. If an order comes from X store, give it a priority tag so I can make sure I process those orders first. Rules can be built and prioritized in a specific order to then supersede some of the other rules when necessary. But automation is more than just rules, right, Austin?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what we'll be talking about today is that automation rule and the way you can think about, 10xing your workflow, going from, well, I have to go into every order and configure it to, we always joke about a world where as an order comes in, a label is coming out the door, just from being able to automate the whole process. So automation rules is actually almost at kind of the bottom of our funnel when we think about automation. So at the top, we start with just the bundles experience. If you've seen our product bundles add-on, I think we have, where it's, you have one SKU that turns into many of them on the actual shipment going out the door. We've got auto routing, auto split. We've got a new feature that's kind of slowly rolling out here called Smart Fill, which tries to take basically some data we gather about how you've shipped in the past without you actually having to configure automation at all yourself and just apply it so you can, go even one step further in that automation experience. We have got product defaults. We've got service mappings. We've got delivery options. And then we've got Rate Shopper is actually not even on the list that I'm looking at. Rate Shopper in there. And then finally, automation rules, right? So we've got a whole host of things that really try to make the process of shipping as efficient as possible for you, to keep on, selling good stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, there's so much involved into it. I scratched the surface on rules, and that's about as deep as I go. But that's why I brought you smart people in the room. So speaking and taking this back to rules, let's talk about how to build an automation rule. So Josh, can you give us a quick tutorial on building automation rules?
Yeah, definitely. And we'll go into this in a little bit more detail with, sharing your screen, and I can walk you through, creating a couple. But really, very simply, if you think of it, if I do this, then I want ShipStation to do this. and it's the this and the this. You kind of need to think through what those are, right? So it's that typical if this then that kind of mentality is really how the rules engine is structured. So a couple of things, and Austin alluded to one, but you'll see in the list of automation rules that you create, you can put those in the order in which they run. And so you want to drag the ones that are kind of like, will outdo the others, more toward the bottom of the list. Those are the ones that will win. So, and then, in regards to kind of the other automation that is in ShipStation, that list that you just read over, the rules are the last kind of automation to run, and will kind of cancel out anything that may have happened before if there's a rule that overrides that. So those are just kind of like the big picture, kind of the foundation in which we'll kind of work off of today as we learn to like build a couple of rules.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And that's a good point to really point out that, you can't just kind of set and forget rules. You can't just like put them in the order that you created them and then just let it go. Like you really want to think about what that process looks like and how to make sure that you're getting the end result you actually think you're going to be getting.
Yeah, definitely. The idea is you don't want to just create a rule and, like you said, just kind of keep adding to the list, right? But then after you get all of your rules created and you've structured them in a way, put them in the hierarchy that you want, then you really can set it and forget it. And that's when really kind of like that magic happens, right? Where you come in, everything is ready for you and there's labels going out, you kind of really didn't have to do anything. So it's pretty awesome.
Like magic.
Like magic. That's right.
Excellent. So now let's kind of go over what some of the benefits of automation rules are. We kind of touched a little bit in the conversation here, but rules take a lot of the guesswork out of processing your orders. So this means you have to spend less time shipping orders and making decisions and trying to decide one way or the other how to ship this package versus that package. And this gives you more time to focus back on your business. And you can even shift employees who might be working on shipping to other parts of the business as well. We've heard from many customers who have actually completely redirected an entire employee's workload to a different part of the business because they've had to do so much less when it comes to shipping their packages. So
yeah,
that's a success story you always love to hear.
For sure. Yeah.
And automatically applying the lowest cost carrier and service can make it easy to reduce, your shipping costs, which is what a lot of people are probably top of mind about.
Yeah, just tell me the cheapest way to go, man.
Exactly.
That's what I want. Yeah, for sure.
And some of our customers, have reported saving an average of 4%, and that's on top of the rate discounts that they're already getting. This is like by taking those discounted rates and then applying the smart rules, they're saving an additional more than on top of that. So that's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Secondly, it reduces the repeatable tasks that you have to do. If you find something in your day-to-day that you're doing over and over again, day in, day out, that's likely something you can automate. If it's something you're repeating, the software can probably repeat it too.
Yeah, most often when we encounter customers and we talk through what rules should we create, right? Like how can we help you automate some of your shipping? The question that we ask is, what are some of the things that you do with every order that you get, or with every shipment that you're going to make, or every day? What are some of those repeatable things? And then more often than not, we can figure out how to structure those into some automation rules. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had customers tell us that they've seen up to 40% fewer clicks in the app by setting automation, which is, imagine what you can do with half the effort you would have to normally spend doing something else, right?
Yeah.
Like that's definitely a good way to be able to focus more time on your business and less time on shipping.
Oh, yeah.
And then it also helps you avoid errors. Shipping mistakes can be really costly, whether it's not choosing the best method for the package that you're getting ready to ship, or creating a customer service issue that ends up making a shipment late, makes you hit or miss your deadlines.
Yeah.
It goes to the wrong address because you accidentally entered something incorrectly. That can not only cost you money based on having to ship another package out, having to get more product out the door, but then also like could lose you a customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's the amount of speed and that happens in the warehouse, you want to be efficient. You also want to be accurate, right? And it just is the human condition. Every now and then you might click on something you didn't mean to, and all of a sudden you got a label, but with the speed in which things are moving, you didn't get time to catch it. That obviously happens, but when you have the right automation configured and put in place and it's working correctly, then there isn't that chance to happen, for that error to be made. So it really is a benefit.
And I mean, using automation can essentially take your avoidable errors down to almost nothing.
Yep.
Which is huge across the board for your entire business. So now we've kind of covered some of the benefits. Let's talk about some automation rules to know. Now, if you're already a ShipStation customer, feel free to follow along in a bit, because Josh is going to show us how to set up some of these shipping rules that you should definitely have on your account. But let's kind of look at some of these that our most successful customers use on a daily basis. And Josh, as I go through these, let's kind of talk about like what's the use case for some of these, and how do you see customers using them? So
yeah.
The first one is to set a carrier and service. So you automatically select the right carrier and service to meet delivery promises and cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
How do you see customers using something like this?
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on create a rule. We're going to give this rule a name. So set carrier and service. And then we have a couple of criteria here. The first one is to, it says that for every order that comes in, just apply this rule. That's pretty specific. The next one is orders that match an existing filter. That could be true, but most often than not, rules will run based off of this last one, which is orders match specific criteria. And this is where you can state kind of what that specific criteria is. So the first of the if statement. So for this one, we're going to say that if the state to where the order is going is we'll say if it's going to somewhere here in Texas, because we're in Austin, and then we can add another criteria if we want. And when you start adding more criteria, what this says here is that it says if the state includes Texas and this, as you keep kind of adding criteria, right? But for this one, we're just going to have just the one criteria that says if the order is going to the state of Texas, we want it to set our carrier service and packaging. We're going to choose UPS Ground Saver. And we're going to say, just give me the regular package, right? And that's pretty much it. So again, if the order is going to somewhere in the state of Texas, then set the service automatically to UPS Ground Saver with a package.
Nice. That's pretty straightforward and easy.
Straightforward and easy. We hit save rule, and then that will put it in our list. And then from there, it's going to by default kind of put it at the bottom. And here is where we can take it and kind of put it in, the hierarchy of our rules in terms of how we want them to run.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think we get a lot of feedback as we're like getting bug reports and things like that on the engineering side. A lot of times it'll come up as like, oh, they just need to reorder the automation rules. So this is something we often kind of point people back towards to really pay keen attention to as they're setting up their automation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some of you that may have, some rules in here already, it's good practice to kind of go through and make sure that, the rules that you have are still applicable, right? That they still are accomplishing what you want them to. And you can always mark a rule. If it's not, you can always mark it inactive. Just, quickly by going in, hitting the 3 dots in the actions column, going in and hitting edit, and then you can just mark the rule inactive. You don't have to necessarily delete it. You can if you want. But if there's a chance that maybe you might want to, use it again, for whatever reason, you can just mark it inactive. And then when the sequence runs from the top to the bottom, it'll just jump over that and ignore it if it's inactive.
No, that's a great tip. I like that. I touched on this one a little earlier, and I guess, Josh, we'll just go ahead and keep your screen up since you'll be demonstrating some of these things.
Yeah, and I was finally able to share it, which, that's always a good thing.
Exactly. But I talked about this one earlier that you could add tags to orders, and this one's a really popular one because it
Yeah,
helps merchants and customers focus on high priority orders to
right.
help them meet some of their shipping SLAs. So can you talk a little bit about how this one gets used?
Yeah. This is a really, really good one, especially if you have customers who are maybe requesting like an expedited, service on their checkout. We can definitely use that for this. Um, these are typically like the ones, maybe your warehouse staff say you have a pickup coming from one carrier at 10 a.m., but the other carriers don't come till the afternoon. You want to get any of the orders that are going to go through that 10 a.m. pickup, you know, kind of completed first, right? So being able to have a rule that kind of shows you what those are going to be is such a time saver. And so I'll show you how to set that up. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an order tag. So if I go to my order screen and if I just select an order, I'm going to go in here to the tags, and these are tags that I already have created. But if I want to use one of those, great. If I want to make a new tag, I can just click on Manage Tags, and then I create a new tag that way. But I'm going to make my pink tag. Actually, let me edit the name. That's going to be my expedited. Okay. And we'll say done there. Okay. So now I've got the order tag created. So now I can do is I can use that tag. If I go into my rules, again, we click on the gear, add automation rules. I'm going to create a rule here. And then I'm going to choose, this is going to be expedited shipping. And I'm going to put in my criteria of if the, and I'm going to say the requested service includes, we're going to say, how about FedEx? FedEx 2-day? Yeah, that's expedited. Then what do we want it to do? Whoops. I misclicked on that. Let's see, requested
Even happens to
service.
the experts.
I know, see?
That's why we set up automation.
That's right. FedEx 2-day. And then what do I want it to do? I want it to add a tag. And I'm going to choose expedited, the one that I just created, right? Now I can do that, and then that will allow the order to come in and it'll just tag it, which is great. But say I want to set all of my expedited orders to FedEx 2-day. I can go ahead and tag it so that I can see those on the orders page, but then I can also add another action for it. And I can say, tag the order as expedited, but then also set the carrier service and package to FedEx 2-day. And I can even choose my package if I want, or I can just put package right there. And then I hit save rule and I'm done.
Wow, that is super easy.
Pretty quick, pretty quick. If you don't misclick on stuff like I did.
Happens.
All right. So then the third most popular one that we see a lot of our customers using is to set package dimensions. So this kind of harkens back to what I was talking about earlier about avoiding those human errors and the need to manually enter this information. So you can talk a little bit about how that one gets used?
Yeah, for sure. So I can do this a couple of different ways. First thing I'll show you how we do it is you can go in to the shipping tab over here on the left, and then we're going to go to packages, and I'm going to create a custom package. And when I do that, I'm going to add my custom package. I'm going to give it a name of Big Box. And we're going to say that this package is 12 by 12 by 12. Okay. Then what I can do is I can go back to my automation, to my rules, and now I'm going to create a rule. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to say this is going to be my big box rule. And for my criteria, I'm going to say if the item name contains, and I'm going to say some of my item names have big in them, and some of them have heavy in them, and some of them have large in them. And you'll see what I did here is I put a semicolon in between the different words that I have in the field that I'm typing in. And what that says is that if the item name contains big or heavy or large, right? And I can do that all in one of the criteria here. But for instance, how that's different than how else you would use it is if you have multiple criteria, right? So if I wanted to say if the item name contains big and the item name contains heavy, then I would do it this way,
Okay.
right? So heavy like that.
So with this setup, it means it has to contain both of those along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this says it has to contain both big and heavy as opposed to the or. So this is
Okay,
the
good.
difference between the and the or, which you may see a lot in bugs,
Yeah.
potentially. I know that we get a lot of questions when we're onboarding customers and in terms of, you know, how we want to structure the rules. It's maybe this or that, or it could be this and that. That's the difference. That's how we do it here. So
That's a great tip.
then what we can do, here's our action again, is we could, you know, set our carrier service and packaging. And I can choose, you know, my ground saver again. I can, you know, choose my big box that I then created a little bit earlier. Now, I could also, there's also the ability to just choose package here. And then what I could do is add another action. If I don't want to do it in here, I could add the action of set, where is it? Set dimensions, set package dimensions. Come on. Did I scroll past it? There it is. Set package dimensions. And then I could put that 12 by 12 by 12 right in here. And that would be the other way to do it.
Wow. So that actually kind of feeds into multiple elements of
Yeah.
of the
So now we're
automation.
starting to kind of layer some of the logic in terms of how the, you know, if this is true, then do this.
Yeah.
We could have if this is true and this is true and this is true or, and then do this, do this, do this. Yeah.
That's powerful. I love that. And then the fourth one that we want to talk about that's a very, very popular one that a lot of our customers are using is to set the ship from location.
Yeah.
And this one can
yeah.
kind of be a game changer when it comes to actually saving on shipping.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Josh.
Yeah, this is such a good one. It's really easy, especially for those of you who have maybe multiple warehouses, right? It's just a couple of, you know, if it's this, then do this again. So we're going to go in here, we're going to create our rule. And you know, I have a warehouse here in Austin. I also have one in California. Because that's how I roll. And so I'm gonna say this is gonna be my Cali rule. And so my criteria are gonna be if the order that I'm shipping to is going to the state of California, and I'm gonna include Arizona as well. And you can see here, this is a drop-down list as opposed to just an empty text field. So by default, when you select if ShipStation allows you to select multiple, it's going to say kind of either this or this, right? So, so if my state includes Arizona or California, whoops, I did the same thing again, guys. Includes Arizona and California. Right? Then I am going to set my ship from location to not be my usual default one, but rather my California location. And that's about it, right? I could do a lot of other things. I can tag all of those orders a certain color if I want, so they stand out a little bit. I can change, the location to go from to my California location, but I want to assign that order to a specific user in that warehouse to fulfill. I could do that. So it's kind of endless in terms of, what you can do, but that, but kind of in the bare bones is how you would do it.
Yeah, and I mean that saves money because then it's not traveling as far across the country.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm
Yeah.
just shipping next door, it's a lot better than if
Yeah.
I'm shipping, a couple states over, or, maybe to the other side of the country or
Yeah.
beyond. Yeah.
That's
So,
one of the biggest ways we see as our merchants grow and they actually get that second warehouse or that third warehouse.
yeah, exactly.
There's certainly an enormous amount of like upfront cost to that, but then you see dividends over time as that shipment cost goes down, right? Because you've got the proximity to start kind of paying for itself over time.
Yeah, and it also lets you offer like some more of the expedited shipping, but not at a
Yeah,
higher cost,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a win all the way around, right? You win, you save on price, like you said, Austin. You also, transit time,
Yeah.
right? Is probably cut in half, if not by more. So it's huge.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Josh. That was super helpful. I'm going to
Yeah,
steal the
absolutely.
screen back from you here, and I'm going to bring back up the presentation here for everyone. All right. So now that we've kind of covered how to set up some of these most important rules, let's talk a little bit about some best practices when automating. Kind of put together some do's and don'ts here. And we covered 4 rules just now, but one thing that you should not do is just limit yourself to those 4 rules. This is kind of scratching the surface, right? And like really kind of giving you like what we kind of almost consider like shipping rules table stakes. But there's so much more that you could be looking into and doing and taking advantage of when it comes to automation.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of customers start small, right? Start small so you can you can feel comfortable with how the rules are how it's structured, how to create them, how they're running, but don't forget it. Like, don't forget to go back to that list, especially when you start asking yourself, what are the things that I do over and over and over? Do I weigh the same package over and over? Do I do this? Yeah, don't limit yourself.
Yeah. And that you actually kind of alluded to the next one I was going to say. You did mention that, automation is kind of setting it and forgetting it, but at the same time, you should always be automating. You should always be thinking about what else can I add to that list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that's definitely something that you want to make sure that you're not just kind of resting on your laurels when it comes to automation. Always be trying to find new ways to take things off of your plate.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're spending less time having to figure out really anything, but definitely with shipping, right? If you're spending less time having to do that and ShipStation can do it for you, then you can focus on the things that you as a business owner can only do,
Yeah.
sourcing your products and, setting your prices, marketing, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then some of the things that you should be doing is, Josh kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but include as many carriers as possible so that you can compare rates and make sure that you're saving. Multi-carrier approach is absolutely crucial to making sure that when you're setting these automation rules, it's finding that best rate for what you need. Excellent. Yeah. And then, so, we also touched on this a bit, but make sure to prioritize the order of your rules. Like that's something that you should be auditing on a consistent basis, I would say, so that it doesn't just kind of get lost in the weeds there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, if you have some really good logic at the top of your list that maybe applies, once you get down to the bottom of your list and something there also applies to the order, it's going to change everything, right? So you just kind of need to think through in terms of orders of operation, what is my end goal, and then work backwards, from that. And on your rules page, it's really easy. You just grab a rule and, it turns into that little, I love that little hand because it actually looks like it actually grabs the thing. It's the little things, right? But your cursor turns into that little hand, it grabs it, and then you can move it, and adjust the order there. But for the most often when we talk to customers and they're like, you know what, I created this rule, but it's not working, and I don't know why. Our first thought is to, well, let's go back and see what's happening in the rules before the one that you want to work starts working. And normally we find some conflict there.
That's great. Yeah. And then finally, take advantage of our support team, our community forum, our help articles. We have a lot of really good information that, again, smarter people than I am have put together.
Me too.
To make sure that, you have all of this information out there to help you get through and find the best ways to automate your shipping.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, all of our support team, they're all experts and they know how to create rules. They can help you with yours. They may even, you may not even have to know, this is the rule I want to create. If you just give them a call and just say, look, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, they can kind of help you figure out what the rule would look like to accomplish that thing. So, and then obviously, like you said, there's a huge community online that, of people have been, making rules for a long time. And can definitely help out with that. So
Yeah, sometimes the best way to learn is from somebody else who's already done it, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Exclusively for the attendees and viewers of this webinar, we have a feature that is currently in beta called Smart Fill. And again, Austin stole my thunder earlier by mentioning it. But Smart Fill automatically fills in shipment details based on your most recent shipments of items or of the same order items. So we liken it to in your browser when you go to a website and your shipping information or your personal information just automatically gets re-entered back into the field because you've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
This works very similarly to that.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, what we have in ShipStation for the Smart Fill beta is that it will automatically fill in inputs like the weight and dimensions. But our team is working to develop even more inputs as this feature continues to roll out.
Yep.
So this beta tool will continue to get even better as time goes on.
Yeah, this is some of our early ventures into, machine learning, all the fancy AI buzzword of the day. But it's one of those, as we get more and more data, we like to think of ourselves as, well, you shouldn't have to think about shipping. We think about it for you.
Yeah.
And so we have customers from all over the country shipping all kinds of products from every destination to everywhere possible. And so as we begin to see, these are the best patterns for people to ship the most efficiently at the cheapest cost, Smart Fill is kind of our first step towards the least involvement from you to get to automate and get those benefits along the way.
Yeah, yeah. I like to think of it as, we've said a number of times, like think about the things that you do repeatedly. Smart Fill is really kind of a tap on the shoulder of like, hey, you've done this a couple of times.
Yeah.
We're assuming you want to do this thing again, right? It's kind of that speak to you. So it's pretty awesome though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get that exact wording in the platform.
Yeah. So if you can if you can make that happen.
So yeah, if anybody that is viewing this webinar now, if you want to join the beta and start checking out this new feature, feel free to scan the QR code that's on your screen right now, and that'll take you to a Google form where you can put your name and your email address, and our product team will reach out. And if you don't want to do it right now, I will also make sure that the link to that form is also going to be in the email follow-up that will include the webinar replay. So you can also do that at a later date. But we're really excited about this tool. We want to get it in the hands of as many people as possible to continue learning and continue making it better. So make sure you take full advantage of that.
For sure.
We are going to go ahead and answer some questions. So I know Austin's been over here tipping away on answering some questions to people, and he's been monitoring the chat. And one that I saw that came in is does automation apply to only shipping related tasks?
Yeah, so we've got a few that let me just peruse our criteria here, the actions, right? And Josh highlighted this, but when we think about automation rules, there's really two different brains you have to put on. There's what does it apply to, and then what am I doing? So that filtering, what can I filter on, right? I mean, we've got a plethora of things here, be it address, customer, deliver date. Deliver by date actually is a recent one, is where we see more and more people saying, hey, I need to get it here by a certain date, 2-day shipping sort of rules. You could say, well, hey, if that deliver by date comes in, I need to use USPS overnight or something like that. Who knows? So we got a ton of criteria there. But then I think what you're getting at is, well, it's the actions. We can do a lot more. So one of the things that we see a lot as people kind of scale their operation is having different users facilitating and having different roles. So you could have, I've seen merchants who like the vast majority of shipments that come through our system end up being kind of single item orders, right? People see something, they want it, and they want it the next day. So they'll have people in their warehouse that are specific to these single item orders. So you can say like, hey, if the number of items is one, it goes to this user or this set of users, and I mean, from there, they get to become really efficient at that. But those multi-item orders that take a little bit longer to pick and pack, they have a different set of users that those will go to. That way, they can streamline kind of both sides of the operation.
Yeah,
along
it's
the way.
really, really a smart workflow.
Yeah, no kidding. And then I think we kind of talked about this earlier, but do I have to set up the rules myself?
No, man. I mean, no. We're always here to help. We're always here to help. Our support team is here to help. The customer success teams that we have, we want to help you. We want to help you, think through what you can put into automation rules. We'll help you create them too, but we if you want to brainstorm too, that's what we're here for. Yeah, we want to help you be more efficient. Spend less time shipping, save you as much money as we can. That's what we're after.
Yeah. And then this is an interesting one. Can I test rules before I apply them?
Can I test rules before I apply them, Austin?
Probably your best bet with that. We've thought about different ways to kind of facilitate this. Probably the most common pattern we've seen people do is try to basically create a test order and then have an automation rule and kind of process automation rules on that test order. But that's probably your best way to do that these days.
Yeah. On the engineering side, like Austin said, there's been a number of discussions over the years, right? Of like how to test rules and how to, make sure rules are executing, the way that they should. So that's what we recommend, right? Is to create a test order in your store and then, run the rule on that. That's kind of the best way to do it by yourself. But again, like if you have a question about that or you think it should work and it's not, like give our support team a call, and we have some tools that we can use to see, where the rule is maybe failing or it's conflicting with something else. And we can provide a little bit more insight that way if you need that.
Gotcha. Well, we actually are running over, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. If you have a question and we didn't get to your question, we will definitely follow up. Trying to make sure that, we are helping you out as much as possible, but we also want to respect your time. So thank you so much for joining us. Keep an eye out for an email coming with the replay of this, and as well as the link to sign up for the beta of SmartFill. And happy automating, everyone. Thank you for joining us.